أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
السلام عليكم. الحمد لله الذي خلق الموت والحياة، خلق الليل والنهار، خلق الجن والإنس. الحمد لله له وحده، نشهد أنه لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Dear brothers and sisters, and today's topic will be a little bit different than the topic from last week. Somebody here was last week. We have a beautiful khutbah last week with extremely eloquent, beautiful English. So pardon the English for what the difference between me and the brother who was there last week is. Today we're going to talk about something in fiqh that touches all of us without exception, and it is inheritance. You know, the mirath. And the inheritance is the money or the assets when somebody dies and leaves. So what we're going to do with those assets and the money, you know, anybody dies and leave whatever the money is, $100, $1,000, $100 million, it doesn't matter. It's just, you know, how we're going to look into this money. So the law here in Florida, if you have a spouse and you die, the spouse takes everything. If the deceased person has children from different person than the spouse, they split into half. The spouse get half, and the children from the other marriage get the other half. And if you don't have a will, a living will to dictate what you want to do with your money, this is how it's going to be. If you don't have anybody to inherit your money, money will go to the state. So you have to be careful with that. If somebody here by himself or herself has nobody to inherit, then they should look into that seriously so the money doesn't go to the state. They already take a lot of taxes from us. So the Jews actually have a little bit different take on that. You know, the Jews, you know, in their book, the oldest son will take double whatever the other sons, and I'm saying sons, not kids, boys, male. Only the males will take whatever left. The oldest son will take double whatever the other two. So assuming that the person who died gave $1,000 and he have 3 kids, the first oldest kid, boy, will take $500, and each one of the other 2 will take $250, something like that, okay? And you can calculate it no matter whatever. In Islam, we have a clear way of looking into how you divide this money. In the beginning, the money was divided according to alliance, which means that alliance was there actually before the Islam comes. Me and Mr. X or Y or Z, we are good friends. I am from this family, and he's from a different family or different tribes. We like each other. I'm going to defend you, you're going to defend me, but when I die, you inherit, and if you die, you inherit. No blood relationship whatsoever. So, and then that extended a little bit, but in a different way in the beginning of Islam. So the alliance was based on faith. So when the Muhajirin, the immigrants, moved from Mecca to Medina, there was some sort of alliance based on the faith that, if somebody from this dies, the other one from this will inherit between the Muhajirin and Ansar, the people, the immigrants, and the people who received the immigrants in the Medina. Very shortly after that, the ayat came and it stated this clearly that this is not going to be the situation anymore. We're going to have a very basic, strong rules of how you divide up the money or the assets after somebody dies. But before we divide anything up, we need to know who will not get anything. So there's 2 or 3 different categories of people who might not get anything if somebody Muslim dies. 1, if somebody kills his father or kills his brother, right? This person who killed, they get nothing. With the exception of Malik, he said he might get some from the money, but from the diya. The diya is something in translation you call the blood money. Okay? So the diya is a blood money which is equal to 1,000 dinar, which is equal nowadays almost $450,000 by our calculation. The dinar, all dinar is 4.25 grams of gold, and you can calculate it from there. 1,000 of that equal whatever the price of the dinar, of the gold, the gram, whatever, it comes to approximately $450,000. So the one who killed, usually according to the consensus among most of the scholars except Malik, they get nothing. They get nothing from the diya or the blood money, and they get nothing from the money or the assets left. Malik is the only one who said you get money from the left, but not from the diya, not from the blood money. Okay, so hopefully we don't see that in our community, but it happens, and so. The second ones, which is the non-Muslims. The non-Muslims do not inherit from the Muslims. So if you have a wife, of course I'm not going to say husband because the Muslim women are not allowed to marry non-Muslim men. So if you have a wife which is non-Muslim, by the Islamic rules, she does not inherit from you. By strict Islamic rules. You can give wasiyah, you can give living will, and you allocate some of the assets or some of the money, but not from the core of the money itself, or the whatever you left. And we see that in our community, so it's very important to know what we're going to do with somebody who's married non-Muslim woman, what they should do with that particular money. So the wasiyah, can take place from 1/3 only of the money, we leave, or somebody who died who left. So only up to 1/3 of the money you have the freedom to donate any way you want it, as long as it does not go to something which is really prohibited by Islam, like killing another Muslim, or wine, or gambling, or prostitution, or things like that. As long as you don't dedicate that money to something like that, then it is allowed to give up to 1/3 of your money to anybody you want. So if one has a spouse and wants to give some of the assets, up to 1/3 can be allocated to that particular person. So that's very important in our society because we see a lot of mixed marriages in the West. So we have to be aware of what we do with this money. Okay. The third one, which is a little bit difficult, is sons of kids coming out of wedlock. So, which is somebody committed fornication, adultery, and they have a child. What's the situation with this child? Does this child inherit from the father or does not inherit from the father? All the scholars almost consensus among them that this child does not belong to whoever the man is, okay? And blindly like that. But Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim and most of the current scholars nowadays, except very few, actually Ibn Baz, I believe, but Ibn Uthaymeen actually was Ibn Taymiyyah, and most of the other current scholars, they say the son coming out of wedlock, and if the father claimed that son, then the son would inherit from the father, okay? And we now, of course, we have ways to prove, kinship, with the genetics and the DNA and things like that. Older days, before Islam, maybe it was a little bit difficult to say who's the father or who's not. Before the Islam, there was so many ways of accepted forms of marriage or getting children. One of them, which is very odd nowadays, we can think about it, that a woman chooses about 7 or 8 different men, and they go and they, sleep with her, and if she gets pregnant, the child, she can have the right to say which father, whatever, randomly, she chooses X or Y or Z, you are the father, and it's okay, and it's already stamped, and it's him. He will be the father, he will inherit, and he will spend on him the money, and sponsor that child, and so on, so on, so on, so on. And of course, we have also in the older days something called zawaj al-mut'a, okay, pleasure, marriage for pleasure. You have and it's still with the Shia, of course, they allow that, but we don't allow it under no circumstances. It's completely prohibited, all right, by so many evidences in Islamic jurisprudence. But a man and woman, they agree, they're going to spend about 2, 3, 4 days together, or a week or 2, and they give her a dowry, and after the week, thank you very much, goodbye, okay? Both of them goodbye to each other. Not really allowed that. That's called sifah in Islamic jurisprudence, which is not allowed. Older days, there was also marriages, very bad ways of marriage, that the man can marry the wife of his father, if not the mother, but the wife of his father. If the father died, he can marry the wife, and which is not really was completely prohibited, which is called the zawaj al-maqt, which is the hateful marriage. That's the translation. So we have these characters that they are not, allowed to inherit, but with the last one, with the current and scholars, they approve it's okay if the child is getting out of wedlock and the father claimed that child, it is okay to be claimed, carry the name of that father, and inherit from the father. There was, of course, the incident at the time of the Prophet, was called al-mula'ana, and somebody saw his wife sleeping with another man, and he went, and he went to the Prophet, what should we do? Should I kill him or kill her or what? And then, of course, the ayat came that, if somebody in that situation, then the man will, make an oath 4 times that, this has happened, and the 5th time God goes to him, and the woman will say the same thing. But the child out of that completely denied from his father. Does not belong to the father under no circumstances. So hopefully we don't see that nowadays in our society. So these are the ones we are not supposed to, inherit with some of the different opinions of the scholars about them. Of course, we have one more, which is the slavery. We don't see anymore. Older days of slavery, but the slave, no matter how close a relationship between the slave and the master, they don't inherit anything. Don't see that, alhamdulillah, in our days. before you divide up the money, before you divide the assets, so things has to be done, because this money does not really belong to them, to the people who inherit. Before these pieces of money comes out, then whatever left will be divided up according to the Islamic code. One of them is the funeral expenses. So, the shroud and the cleaning and the cleansing and washing the body and going to the home and the burial, all these things within reasonable amount of money is taken out first before you think that this money belongs to the son or the daughter who's going to inherit the money. So the next one will be two more things. One is debts. Any debt the person who died and this has to be paid first before any money to be allocated to the people who's going to inherit the money. If somebody have merchandise and I bought from that person a refrigerator, this refrigerator has to go to me, who bought it before the kids think this belongs to them. And if that person bought $1,000 for somebody, this $1,000 has to come out first and go to people who give the money to lend that money to the deceased person. Then after that you can start calculating what is and how much to be allocated and according to the rules. Okay? And the last thing is the al-wasiyya. Al-wasiyya, of course, we talked briefly about it, and al-wasiyya, which is that a living will. And again and again and again, it's very clear that it's not more than 1/3. And the hadith, which is hadith sahih, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, he was a sahabi. If anybody read the Sirah knows who Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas lived. And he got very sick at one time, and he thought he's going to die, and he wanted to donate so much of his money. He was a rich man relatively, and the Prophet, prohibited him from donating more than 1/3, and even the 1/3, he told him this is even too much for that. So these are some of the basic rules of how you look into the inheritance and how much and this and that. That's a big topic, really big topic. It can take more than 1 hour or two before you go into some of these details. So for the sake of the time, I'm going to stop here and Allah is telling me. So I'm going to make some dua and let's make ameen inshallah so we can God accept all our du'as and we'll make it short inshallah so everybody can go to work. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله